everyone, and welcome back to the MoeGamer Podcast. It's been a very long break since our last episode, almost a year, in fact. I think it's slightly over a year.
I think the last one we were talking about E3's fail, E3 dying because of the pandemic.
Yeah, something like that. So, we are going to continue with what we talked about last time, which is having a more sort of casual format of podcast where we just sort of chat about what we've been playing lately, maybe a few bits and pieces of news, but not a particularly structured sort of thing. So before we get into that, let's just introduce ourselves. So I am Pete Davison. So what order do I put things in now? I guess headliner now should probably be I am editorial manager of Rice Digital, which is ricedigital.co.uk. That is my day job now. I get paid to write about things, which is lovely. So over on Rice Digital, we cover Japanese, Asian games, visual novels, adult content, hentai, ecchi, manga, anime, all sorts of things, and some retro stuff as well. So I have pretty much complete creative freedom over there, which is lovely. So as long as I write about the things people ask me to write about when they ask me to write about, I can do pretty much what I want, which is the dream, really. So aside from that as well, long-term listeners will probably know me from MoeGamer.net, which was my personal site where I write about Japanese games and so on. The Italian Mega feature will be finished at some point, but I've been derailed significantly by a lot of things I've had to do for professional obligations, but it will return and it will be finished at some point. I just can't tell you when right now. And as always, I'm joined by my good friend Chris Caskie of ccaskyart.com. That's right, isn't it?
Yep, that's right. I humble supply chain manager by day, almost neurotic and obsessive collector of video games and stupid plastic robots from Japan by night. I post my artworks, drawings, and my various pixel art paintings at ccaskyart.com. I also maintain two Instagram pages, the first one being at ccaskyart, where I post my artwork, and the second being Chris Buys Plastic, where I post photography of my various toy and game collection items.
Very nice, very nice. I only really have a Twitter on social media because I just can't be arsed with the rest of it, to be perfectly honest.
But I wouldn't have any of it if I wasn't heavily engaged with visual mediums.
Indeed. You can find me at MoeGamer on Twitter, and there's also the Rice Digital account as well that you can follow. That is sort of an updates-only account for stuff that's happening on Rice and the occasional bit of good-natured, humorous anime memes, ha ha ha, and all that sort of thing. But anyway, yes. So, what are we going to talk about today then?
HoloCure? Can we talk about HoloCure?
That was actually the first thing I put on my own list. So yes, we can talk about HoloCure. So HoloCure, for the unfamiliar, is a game that was put together by... Hold on, I did a bit of research the other day and found out some interesting facts about it, so let me make sure I get them right. So basically, if you've played Vampire Survivors on Steam, which was a big sort of viral hit a few months back, HoloCure is Vampire Survivors, but with the HoloLive VTubers as the playable characters. So it's created by KU, who is an animator and artist who's previously worked on anime series like Mushoku Tensei, Boruto, Castlevania, and Sword Art Online, plus the cinematic animations for Shantae and the Seven Sirens, and sprite work for River City Girls. So they have quite a pedigree behind them, and are obviously quite happy to put this out for free and for the HoloLive girls to just enjoy it on stream and for everyone else to enjoy it on stream. So that's great, and it's a very professional, polished production, despite obviously not being quite finished. There's obviously some more characters and stuff that they want to put in there, but it's a really good game already.
Yeah, I love it. So question, because I know we're genres and nomenclature guys. What are we calling what is obviously this genre that has been birthed from Vampire Survivors?
Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because there's obvious sort of roguelike and roguelite tendencies in there, but it's obviously something different from the normal form of those games. Because
there's bullet hell in there.
Yeah.
There's passive gaming. I've been calling them auto battlers, but I don't know Is something else called that? I don't know.
Yeah, something else is called auto battle. I don't know the specifics of the genre, but I think it's a sort of offshoot of the idle genre. But there's definitely stuff on Steam called auto battlers, and it's not stuff like this. They're kind of things where you sort of set everything up beforehand and then kind of leave it to it, I think. Whereas this, there is a sort of semi-idle element to this in that you don't actively have to fire off your weapons and things, but you still have to directly interact with the game in order to.
Well, it's far from
play.
It's far from passive, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I'll just call them like survival rogues or something right now.
Yeah, action survival or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, this is obviously a sort of growing genre now. Vampire Survivors is by far the best known one. KU also cites a mobile game called, hold on, what's it called? I can't remember, which is how memorable it was. Magic Survival, which is again the exact same sort of game, but it's got a sort of silhouetted art style and it's only on mobiles. So yeah, but yeah, I particularly like HoloCure because it's such a well polished game. Because it's obviously been built from scratch. I couldn't say for sure whether or not Vampire Survivors really has ripped sprites from Castlevania, but it certainly looks like it has.
I can confirm there are many sprites in Vampire Survivors that are direct rips from the Symphony of the Night and post Symphony of the Night generations.
Right.
Some of them with like strange additions, so that they can just kind of say like, "Oh, this isn't the same sprite." Like. One of the later bosses in the library stage in Vampire Survivors is the Orlox boss from the Inverted Castle in Symphony of the Night, just with a top hat on.
Yeah.
So like it made me laugh, but there's also a part of me that disagrees with the creative dishonesty of charging money for a product that's ripe with sprites that aren't of their own creation. That being said, Vampire Survivors is a hoot. I hesitate to even look at my playtime on Steam. It's offensive. Like days, not hours. So I really enjoy this genre. I think it's a lot of fun. It's great for me in like situations where I've got like 15 minutes or 20 minutes to dick around before I leave for work. And I really just like it for that. You know, people who may be listening to us for the first time here may not know this, but, you know, longtime fans will know that we're mechanics guys. We like to talk about how games are built, how the various functions and mechanics of the games interact. Out of the entries in this genre I have played, HoloCure is by far the one that I feel is most designed. There's, in terms of characters having unique abilities, interplay of those abilities, the interplay of characters' unique stats and abilities with the generic abilities, and the interesting ways that certain weapons and armors complement the proclivities of certain individual characters better. This is a much less prevalent part of the experience with Vampire Survivors. So it's very clear that the developers of HoloCure have made creating a game that feels like a polished, almost retail-ready indie game in the way that it plays. And I find myself coming back to it more and more than Vampire Survivors, just based on that fact that it tickles the strategic part of my brain a lot more. The only real complaint is, of course, it is in such an early prototype state. It's only got the one stage. Whereas I think Vampire Survivors is up to like 5 or 6 at this point.
Something like that, yeah. So
it'll be great to see how this evolves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say exactly the same thing. The thing I like most about HoloCure is the fact that there are distinctive elements to the characters in Vampire Survivors, but they feel a lot more distinct in HoloCure because every character in HoloCure, it's not that they just start with one of the available weapons, it's that they have their own unique weapon, and then as they level up, they also have their own unique skills as well, and those tend to sort of synergize with each other naturally. Whereas in Vampire Survivors, there was that synergy element between different weapons that would work well together, but you were quite beholden to RNG in that, you could easily have a run in Vampire Survivors where two weapons that go well together just didn't come up. Whereas in HoloCure, you're guaranteed to get at least a couple of things that work well together because those are the character-specific things.
Yeah, I mean, a great example. Right? So, Vampire Survivors, the multiple characters, they start with different weapons. They have slightly different stats. But what I find in Vampire Survivors is I have my own proclivities for how I like to play the game. So, once I'm about 20 minutes deep, every character feels the same to me.
Yes.
Which is fine. It's fine. It's still a fun game, but HoloCure forces me to think differently because every character is designed almost with a specific type of traditional RPG class or focus in mind.
Yes.
So great example, right? Gura. I had my most successful run on Endless Mode yesterday with Gura. I got to 27 minutes. Probably paltry compared to what some people out there are doing, but it was good for me. And Gura's entire focus is on buff and debuff synergies.
Yeah.
So if you get the collab by combining the Asakoko plug with the I forget which the fan beam, you get the fire breath.
Oh yeah.
So Gura, one of Gura's abilities that you can choose to learn is called Shark Bites, and what that adds is a stack of defense debuff up to 5 stacks per enemy every time she hits them. So when you're playing Gura, ideally you want a weapon that fires extremely fast. So
yes.
the flamethrower is a rapid fire weapon. So if you get the flamethrower and pair it with Shark Bites, every enemy you're touching is instantly getting hit with Shark Bite stacks for vulnerability. So it's thinking like that by combining unique character traits with the generic weapons that everyone has access to, that can make every run and every build feel very different and really opens up your brain thinking about things in this way, which doesn't happen in Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my favorite character at the moment is have you unlocked Fauna yet?
No, I don't have Fauna yet. Of the Hollow Council, I have Crony. I have I don't remember her name now. The Planet Girl.
Sana. Sana. I've pulled her 3 times now.
She's great if you like to play close. All her stuff is close proximity area of effect. And she's not Hollow Council, but I also have Iris.
Yes.
But now every time I try to pull from the gacha to get a Hollow Council member, I keep getting Crony over and over and over again.
Yeah, I keep getting Sana, but I was lucky enough to pull Fauna once. So Fauna is really interesting because her basic attack seems quite weak. So she has this ability called Nature Shield, where it's a little bit like the Yaoi manga one, where she shoots out a bunch of projectiles that circle around herself, except it's leaves. As that levels up, that becomes quite powerful, but Fauna's real strength is in her extra skills and stuff that she picks up. So one of her main ones is that she has a skill that as you level it up, it becomes more and more likely that when you defeat an enemy, they turn into a little sapling. And when you pick up the sapling, it heals Fauna for just 3% of her health or something like that, and gives her a buff to all her stats. So what you end up doing is sort of racing around from sapling to sapling, picking them up and keeping this buff continually up. Then she's got other ones that sort of prevent her from taking damage for a few hits. And self heals and that sort of thing. So yeah, she's if you know how to use her properly, she is near invincible.
That's it's stuff like that. That's incredible. Kiara, right? Kiara can learn 2 of her skills. She can learn Trailblazer, which leaves a continuous damage trail of fire behind when she steps, and then Dancer, which buffs her as long as she's continuously moving. So when you have those together, you're literally just weaving a minefield of fire all around the stage, dealing passive damage to anything that's chasing you constantly. And it's just those types of mechanical synergies that make this game fascinating to come back to over and over again, even though it only has 1 stage and 2 modes. I'm absolutely loving it. Can't wait for it to continue to grow. Can't wait for that promised controller support, because I'm starting to get tennis elbow. But and secretly wish HoloLive would just pick it up. and give them money to make it a full-fledged thing, and then like a retail thing happens, and I don't know, it would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be great. So I think the plans for the next few updates are, it looks like they're going to add some new characters next. So we're going to get the HoloLive Indonesia characters at some point soon. Does that mean
Ollie?
Yeah, so we'll have Ollie, we'll have Rain, we'll have the other ones that I can't remember.
I love Ollie.
And then already on the menu, they've got spaces set aside for some of the Japanese ones. So they've got HoloLive Gamers, which means Corone. They've got
Okayo,
Gen Zero.
I assume.
Yeah. And like various gens. So obviously the long-term intention is to have a huge cast of playable characters in here, but that'll be a very gradual process because it, like we've already said, it's clear that they're not just putting them in as skins, they're putting them in as unique mechanical systems. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all those different characters play. Yeah.
Oh god, I wonder if there's any possibility for Coco. I mean, there's the Coco references in the items.
Well, yeah, I mean, Asa Coco's already in there, isn't there? So I don't know. I mean, with it being an unofficial HoloLive project, I mean, theoretically they're free to put Coco in there, I guess.
I wonder because like one would assume if they put Rusha in there, it would be, like they just like HoloLive would be like, you guys can't stream this anymore. It's like, I don't know where, because I'm assuredly the developers want to walk the line where it's appropriate for HoloLive to continue streaming it, because that was obviously part of their strategy for making this in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And they have been. Have you seen how many of them have been streaming it of late?
Yeah, it's so cute to watch them like find the other stuff. Like, have you seen that clip that's been circulating of Corone playing it and realizing that one enemy wave section is a reference to that Gura and Mori music video?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's so much fun. And also just in general, right? Like if you are a fan of HoloLive, sussing out the references and the inside jokes associated with the different weapons and items is great. And then it goes like a layer deeper, because if you're a fan of Vampire Survivors, you're also trying to suss out like how the HoloLive inside joke weapon name is also kind of a joke reference on the original weapon it's based on. So it's like, in Vampire Survivors, you get the Bible, and the Bible is what circulates around you and protects you as a potential defensive weapon. But in HoloCure, it's a BL book, aka Boys Love manga, aka yaoi. So it's hilarious to think about those jokes and the way they interplay, just like reflexively on the genre, and like taxing your knowledge of like classic HoloLive memes.
Yeah, but at the other end of the spectrum, if you have never heard of HoloLive, this is still a great game.
Yeah, which I think the best part.
Is part of its genius. So like, I could give this to anyone and say, play this. It's better than Vampire Survivors, or I like it more than Vampire Survivors. And they would go, okay. Yep. And they'd play it and they go, yeah, it is.
Yep. I already got one of my buddies at work hooked on it, and he doesn't know anything about HoloLive. He's not into VTubers at all, but he just is like, wow, this is a great game to play after breakfast before I leave for work. And I was like, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So I've pulled up my Vampire Survivors stats on Steam, and I have 56.5 hours. So I've put like a full RPG into Vampire Survivors.
I have seen much larger figures than that from Vampire Survivors. So I don't think you need to feel too ashamed of that.
That's pretty big for me, though.
Yeah, no, I have seen people in the 3 and 4 digits number of hours on Vampire Survivors.
4 digits.
Yeah, so don't feel too bad.
I would feel bad if I had 4 digits of playtime. I have 4 digits of playtime in FF14, but that's a kind of a different animal.
Yeah. I think my wife has 5 digits in FF14 now. So yeah, it's nice to see her occasionally. Anyway, so that is HoloCure. What else would you like to talk about today?
Well, we can't talk about FF14 because somehow I'm ahead of you now.
I know. I know. I got complacent. I thought, oh, Chris will never catch up, and then you go whooshing past me.
It's literally all I played for 2 years.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it drives me nuts because I'm ahead of everybody I know. So I can't talk about story shit with anybody. It's driving me mad. Yeah, so there's that. Let's see. Well, I've been playing Disgaea 6. I just got the complete edition for the PS4 of Disgaea 6. But you don't have a lot of experience with Disgaea, right? So
I have a little bit of experience with sort of the early Disgaeas on PS2, but I've never sort of really sunk my teeth into one properly.
Okay.
I know sort of the appeal and everything, and I get it. I've just deliberately sort of held myself back because I know what will happen.
Yeah, what is currently happening to me. I haven't fired up FF14 once since that arrived in the mail on Tuesday. I always describe Disgaea as like, do you ever have, and this just doesn't apply to games, it applies to like literally everything in life. Have you ever had just like a weird like void of knowledge in your brain that refuses to fill? Like, have you ever just like had a gap of knowledge or memory about something you know for a fact you already knew? Like, so like, and I know this is kind of abstract, but like, literally every time I get a new Disgaea game, I pick it up and I start playing it, and I'm like, well, I knew Disgaea was good and I knew I loved it, and that's obviously why I bought it, but holy shit, I forgot Disgaea was this good.
Yeah,
like,
no, I've had that frequently.
Every time. It happens with every release. It's and like the new one is really interesting because it's, obviously like the internet is a cancerous nightmare zone of rabble, but when
the agony box, as I believe Penny Arcade called it.
the Goem Jabbar for you Dune fans out there. It's a perfect comic. Yeah, but so there's a lot of complaining about Disgaea 6 in the really hardcore Disgaea fan community because, in similar vein to what we've seen in other long-running franchises looking to appeal to new users, it has a lot of concessions made and new mechanics added to make it not necessarily easier to play, but easier to grind, easier to enhance the power of your characters. But they're all incorporated in like a very unique and mechanically interesting way. So like, I love it. So it's like one of the new features, which I absolutely adore. Do you know in modern Dynasty Warriors games or licensed Musou games, they added that feature where it's like it's clearly asinine to expect any player to grind up 100 characters. So you can like spend gold or other amassed resources to level up the characters you're not actively using, so that you could make a character you hadn't been actively using viable if you wanted to try them.
Yes.
So Disgaea 6 has something similar to that.
Perfect. Why not?
Yeah. So it actually has, so like, you're 40 hours into the game, you unlock Samurai, you make a Samurai, he's going to be level 1. Well, you're not going to bring him into the level 30 dungeons you're in right now, right? So it has this really interesting set of mechanics for grinding, where one of them is called the cheat counter, and you can go to the cheat counter and you can manipulate the way certain game mechanics work. So you can turn off experience acquisition for characters.
Right.
And instead, that experience accumulates in like a kitty called the juice bar. Okay. And then you can take your characters to the juice bar and you can make them a juice that like ups the stats you want or increases their level or increases their weapon proficiency by spending that amassed experience as a currency.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you can passively develop characters you're interested in using and make them viable in your current game without having to grind them from level 1. It's a really cool addition to the series. And upon having it, I'm so surprised this hasn't... because, like, let me walk you through my normal loop with Disgaea 1 through 5, right? I play them for like 25, 30 hours, and then I unlock like Armor Knight or Dragons or Succubus, and I get super excited, and then I make one, and I circle back to level 1, and I just start grinding that person out so that they can become a part of my party.
Yeah.
right? And then I just get bored because I'm replaying the same levels, or I'm just like languishing in the item world's randomly generated stages, and I'm like, oh, well, I forgot about the story, so I don't care anymore, and then I step away from it. So additions like this, yes, they make the game more accessible to other people, but they're also just a thoughtful addition for hardcore enthusiasts like me who have petered out in the games in the past because of the lack of ability to create new characters and refresh my team without having to return to grind low-level characters up. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. I was also very hesitant about the change to 3D HD graphics, but it turns out that the character designs and the character of Disgaea and its general feel really shine with the cel-shaded graphics. So, you know, I love the sprite-based ones. I love the HD 2D animation-based ones, but I'm not going to complain if it's like this moving on out. You know, none of the other games cease to exist. I can play them anytime. This is a really beautiful take on the world of Disgaea, and the characters just look great. If you get the complete edition, you get several bonus missions that were previously DLC, so you can get old characters from the other games and see how cool they look in the new graphics. So, like, my favorite, Rosalind from 2, is one of the bonus characters. So, like, it's awesome to have her in the HD 3D graphics. Yeah, it's been a real treat, and I'm really enjoying it.
Did we get the because they did some HoloLive DLC, didn't they? I think in Japan. Did we get that over here?
I mean, it's not. I mean, yes, it's HoloLive, but all it really is they're not unique character models. They're just like regular characters. Like, you know, Disgaea has class characters, right? There's witch and samurai and like whatever. So it's existing characters meshed up in appearance as close as possible to a HoloLive VTuber,
right, I getcha.
With a color with a color scheme skin that matches them.
Yeah.
So it's not actually Rusha. It's like a wind witch with a green hair and a white dress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, like, you get that if you get the complete edition, but they're not really like the characters so much as they are just normal class characters with the name and a special color scheme.
Yeah.
But the classic characters really are unique models of the Disgaea characters with their unique skills. It's lovely, and it's worth it. And honestly, like, unless you're specifically hardcore about the story and the characters, 6 is the perfect place to jump in with all the new adaptations and adjustments to the mechanics. Not that the other ones aren't all great or worth playing, but unless you're really in it for the story, every Disgaea game is pretty much mechanical differences to and fro, largely the same experience. Just that, you know, the maps change and some of the mechanics change, but you really be good with one Disgaea game because they're infinite games. Because you know about the item world and stuff, right?
Oh yes, I know very well. In fact, like the first time I played the original Disgaea on PS2, I just remember getting deep into an item world for like a stick of chewing gum or something and being like, whoa, I'm not sure I'm ready for this.
Yeah, it's the world's best stick of chewing gum now. Yeah, I mean, and other thing I really love about Disgaea 6, I don't think it did it in Disgaea 5, but I haven't played Disgaea 5 since launch, so it's been a while. Another thing it's doing is like self-reflexively taking the piss out of the series' own penchant for stupid big numbers. So like, I've only been playing it for like 6 hours, and like my main character is level like 220. You just like you beat a level and you level up like 13 times. So the joke is that the numbers are small because the numbers are so big. So like when it displays damage in combat, like I did a special move on a guy yesterday and it was like 220,000 damage, but now it just says 22k. So it's actually made it more legible. It's made the numbers so big that it's had to abbreviate the thousands with a k. So now the numbers are so small because of that abbreviation that they're more legible than they used to be. It's really funny.
Excellent. Yeah, I will have to dive into all that at some point. I think I have pretty much every Disgaea at least once on my shelf. Several I've got twice.
Okay. Yeah,
because I've got like the PS2 and the PSP versions of the first two, and I think I've got the Switch version of the first one. and various others. So yeah, I have plenty of Disgaea ready to keep me busy whenever I'm ready.
Disgaea is one of the few series where I kind of are in the opposite of how I usually am, in that if a complete one doesn't come out, if I already have the first one, I just won't buy the complete one, because like the game itself is so robust that I kind of don't care about the bonus stuff.
Exactly.
But what happened after 4 was I realized there's always a complete edition, so I just stopped buying them at launch. So now I just wait for, like I do with Monster Hunter and most other games that I know get complete editions, I just wait for the complete edition. But 5 complete on the Switch is an absolute delight to be able to transition between the handheld mode and the... I think they did 4 complete on the Switch as well.
Yes, I think so.
4 is a really fun one, because it's more like... The theme of the story is like classic monster focused, so like the main character is a vampire and his best friend is a werewolf. So I really like that as an old school hard nut. Yeah, I love those games. I mean, I love NIS in general. We talk about Nipponichi games all the time on here. B tier, our classic B tier Nipponichi discussions. Yep. I'm super addicted to ZHP now, which you can get on the Prinny Classics Volume 2 collection. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've been enjoying revisiting that. I haven't spent as much time with that as I should have done so far, but I've definitely been enjoying what I have done with that. And it's nice to have that on a, I want to say, more easily accessible platform. It's not that the PSP isn't accessible because it's a handheld, but it's just nice to have it on something where you've got the choice of playing it on the big screen if you want to, and that sort of thing. So
the PSP is accessible generally. Copies of ZHP are not.
Yes, that is true. I've got a digital version of it. I don't think I've ever seen a physical version of it, but yeah, that's
one of those expensive ones.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I love these Prinny Classic collections because they're specifically focusing on the weird ones.
Yes.
It's like, to me, like, I don't know how many episodes of the old episodes that I've, like, proselytized the glories of Soul Nomad and the World Eaters to you. Like, I can't wait for you to eventually crack into that game and see how genius it is.
Yeah, for sure. What's in the next one? It's got Rhapsody and something else.
Oh, La Pucelle.
Yeah,
like the most enhanced, like feature-rich version of La Pucelle. It's the one that they released on Steam that they then backtracked and like added Disgaea characters to for fun.
Right.
So like La Pucelle is like proto Disgaea.
Yeah.
It was like the game that Nipponichi made before they made Disgaea, and it's like it's full of like similar weirdness. In that. There's like the geo panels and all the weird like stage manipulation stuff kind of had its genesis there.
Right.
But it is a little different because it's got monster collecting, which is lovely, which I obviously love. And it's cool because there's, Disgaea is a very classic strategy RPG in the sense that when you attack an enemy, it just happens there on the grid.
Yeah.
But La Pucelle... when you do an attack, then it goes to a separate screen and it plays out a really like a cute sprite animation of the characters fighting with a different sprite than is the map sprite, like a more detailed sprite.
like sort of Shining Force style.
Yeah, a little bit. It almost looks like the battles in a PS2 Atelier game.
Oh, okay.
Like those kind of like chunky, cute sprites, and then they like fight. Yeah. They fight, and then it goes back to the map. So it's a little different. It has its own identity. Lots of cute waifus, good sense of humor, good music. It's classic NIS, and it's fun to play because you can start to learn the DNA that led to Disgaea eventually.
I'll look forward to investigating that one.
Yeah. These collections are wonderful, and I wonder if they're going to keep going with them after the third one. I'd be curious to see what else they'll release because they've really done a lot of the iconic obscure stuff now already.
Yes.
ZHP, Soul Nomad, and Makai Kingdom were like the big ones that people were clamoring for. So I'm curious to see what else they do. I'd really love to see one with the 2 Guided Fate Paradox games from the PS3 on it.
Yes, that would be good. That would be good.
I don't have
because those were sort of successors to ZHP in a way, weren't they? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, in the same way that Disgaea grew from La Pucelle's Guided Fate grew from ZHP. Different theme, similar mechanics.
Yeah.
So really enjoying these collections.
Yeah, I need to dive into those a bit more. I've sort of been on a bit of a kick of playing shorter stuff of late for some reason. I've just I guess I've just had sort of so much stuff on. It's been kind of hard to focus on anything too long and too in depth. But I did play all the way through Seven Pirates, which was a lot of fun. Seven Pirates is pretty much the polar opposite to what we're just talking about. In that it's simple, it's straightforward, but you know, when I played it, that was exactly what I was in the mood for. I wanted something with the trappings of an RPG that wasn't too complicated. I didn't have to think about too hard, and it provided exactly that. And it provided an experience that I could be done with within 25 hours, and I finished it, and I was happy with that, and great, fantastic. So
yeah, I'll have to dig into that game some more.
Yeah,
that's a great example of like what we're always talking about. Like it's a thoroughly stupid game, but like stupid as a compliment. Like some things are stupid and it's bad. A lot of times when we call something stupid, it's because we love it. And it's dumb and self-referential, doesn't take itself seriously at all. Disgaea is a very stupid series as well. ZHP, extremely stupid. What with the Super Baby and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, Seven Pirates, I've thoroughly enjoyed so far. The booby-kin? I don't know. What's the Japanese name for the booby-kin? The little the little gnome people. It's gotta be like Opie something, like a cute play on
they're called like the Pai or something like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, just cute little elves with nipples on their heads that help you build equipment and have adventures.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like that. My very good friend, maybe every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, he likes to come over, and basically he just brings every game he's bought since the last time we hang out, and I build a big pile of every game I've bought since the last time we hung out, and we literally just like spend like a whole day like alternating between like watching goofy YouTube videos and just like checking out all our newest games. Mm-hmm. And he is gay, and he's like, what's Seven Pirates? Why isn't that one in the pile? I'm like, because you don't want to play that one. You're not going to enjoy that one. Let's move on to something else. Yeah, and then he made me put it in anyway, mm-hmm. And then, because how could you not? And then he recorded video footage on his phone of what do they call it, like the booby training or whatever they call it. But so like that ended up on like TikTok or something. So, yeah, that game is fantastic.
Did you get far enough to where you crack eggs between their tits? No. There's like a gacha system in it where a lot of enemy drops are just eggs, and when you go into the booby training screen, you have to crack the eggs by sticking them between their boobs and just wobbling them around, and then the eggs burst open. It will go like ultra rare, and then there's something inside them. But every so often, it's just an egg, and so it cracks and it splatters stuff all over their tits, and it doesn't look like egg.
Yeah, no, I only got far enough to recruit the demon girl, the one with the purple hair.
Yeah,
and that's like right in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, so like, that's very early. You get all the characters quite early, but
so who's like? There's the dragon girl and the skeleton girl, and then I have everyone, right?
Yes,
I have the kobold, I have the slime, I have the kraken. She's my favorite so far, and I have the demon. So
yes, Clary the Kraken. She is pretty hilarious consistently because she's such a bitch, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, she's really funny. So I really like her. I really like how dedicated she is to making the slime girl exceedingly uncomfortable at all times.
Yes, that is funny.
Because the slime girl is like dumb but well-meaning.
Yeah. I find it quite funny because there's a lot of voices I recognize in that game, and they're playing characters that are a little bit different from what they normally are. So, like, the slime girl is played by Blanc from Neptunia.
Oh, okay.
like, there's obviously a bit of crossover with the sort of angriness in there, but there's a lot more of sort of the awkward embarrassment in there. So it's quite funny to hear her. Yeah. The skeleton girl is played by Maya from Galgun as well. She has a very distinctive voice, and it works really well for this skeleton girl who's sort of this shy recluse who doesn't like going outside.
Perfect. I will enjoy it. I will enjoy that character.
Yeah. Like I say, the best thing about her is because she's like a little skinny kid, basically, wearing like a skin tight bodysuit. But if you do the booby training, you can obviously make her breasts bigger. Once they get beyond a certain point, like the front of her outfit just bursts open, and there's just this pair of tits sticking out of it, and it's just brilliant.
Hilarious. I'm really hoping they continue with the series. There's one left, and it's the one I'm most interested in. Castle
Monster
Panzer.
Monpiece. Oh yes, I completely forgot about that one.
Yeah. Well, Monster Monpiece they did release in the West. You can download it on the Vita. You just can't.
They put it on Vita, and they did it on PC as well. I think you can get it on Steam.
So you can get it. There's just no physical.
Yeah, it would be nice if East Asia Soft did that for Switch.
Yeah, I really like that game.
Yeah. A lot of people had to sort of, even people who don't like the sort of ecchi content, had to sort of begrudgingly admit that was a really solid card game at its core.
Yes, I like that game a lot. But yeah, Genkai Toki Castle Panzers is the medieval themed one, and it's got like light strategy elements.
Oh, cool.
So like, that's the one I'm most
completely forgotten that existed.
For. Yeah, it's really cool.
But yeah, I'd say signs are probably good for that showing up at some point, because East Asia Soft seem to be pretty cozy with Idea Factory at the minute. So
yeah, it's been a good relationship.
And so for the stuff that they might have a bit of difficulty with releasing natively in the West through Idea Factory International, they just seem to turn to East Asia Soft now. So that's great. So like that helps prevent any sort of. I mean, this wasn't Idea Factory, but it helps prevent any more sort of Omega Labyrinth type situations where the companies put in all the work to localize it, and then some organization goes, nope, you can't sell that.
Did you ever pick that up? I still need to get that.
The one that got banned was actually a different one to the one that they did release in Asia. So the one that they refused classification to, I don't think there's even an Asia English version of it. There's only a Japanese version of that.
Oh, really?
But then they did Omega Labyrinth Life, which was the one after that.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
And yes, I did pick that one up. I haven't played it yet, but
because that's not a sequel, it's like an enhanced port.
I'm not sure. All of the Omega Labyrinth games, I think, sort of stand by themselves. They're a bit like Mystery Dungeon games. Yeah, okay. From what I understand, they're kind of Mystery Dungeon type things where they just sort of use the same mechanics but different settings and different characters.
Okay, yeah, I thought Life was the enhanced port for the Switch. I didn't realize it was a whole completely different game.
No, I think it's a different thing, which is why people are still asking for Z is the one that you can't get. Yeah, there's a localizer on Twitter who's just joined P-Cube, who are the people who were going to localize Omega Labyrinth Z, and he gets daily questions about Omega Labyrinth Z, and he's just like, "Shut up! It's not happening."
It's weird. What else has been cool lately? Shmups have been enjoying a hell of a renaissance lately.
Yeah. What have you been playing on that front?
I just got that cute one, Horgihugh and Friends.
Oh, is that any good? I've seen Axis like talking it up a whole lot recently, but I haven't really looked into it myself.
I've seen nothing but people bitching about it. Like I've heard like, oh, it's like a Flash game from the late '90s and like whatever. But like I think it's pretty good. So I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know. It is hard as balls though.
As it should be.
Yeah. Do not let the like cute character designs fool you. And like I'm not the best at shoot 'em ups by far, but I think we would all agree that I've got some experience because I've been collecting them my entire life. I can't even beat the first level.
Yeah, always a good one.
But it is cool. It has a mechanic I always really appreciate, which is that shopping mechanic, like what they have in Fantasy Zone. So
right, yeah.
So every now and then, like a little, it's not, the game isn't like Fantasy Zone. It doesn't loop. It's a straight line horizontal shooter. But but every now and then a little like, here's the professor's lab on a hot air balloon will appear, and then like you can you can jump into it and upgrade your ship or change your shot patterns with whatever currency you've collected throughout the stage.
Yeah.
It's just brutal because as soon as you get hit once, you lose whatever you just bought. So, like, I can't even tell you how many times I've been like, oh, I'm having fun. Oh, sweet, I got the ripple laser. And then, like, the hot air balloon shits me out right into an enemy. But I like it. The pixel art is cute. The character design is cute. I probably wouldn't recommend anybody buy it for, like, the $40 launch price tag. But if you like cute 'em up specifically, which I do, it's certainly worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you the most rage-inducing shoot 'em up I've played recently is I tried Typhoon by Konami for the first time. Have you played that?
Probably like 15 years ago during my like deep delves into MAME when I was like in high school or something.
Yeah,
but, like,
it's part of the Arcade Classics compilation they did a while back.
Oh, okay, so I'll be getting that because Limited Run is publishing a physical of it.
Yes, that's right. They haven't released it yet, but it is soon. But yeah, I got the download version of that a while back. But yeah, that is the most rage-inducing shoot 'em up I think I've ever played. It's been a long time since I've like shouted and sworn at a game, but this just filled me with anger because it was being perfectly reasonable. But I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do what it was asking me to do, and it was so infuriating. But it's a cool game. The reason I started checking it out is because last month's issue of Retro Gamer magazine, they did a big feature on it, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And then they said, oh, it's part of the Konami Arcade Classics collection. I go, oh, that's very interesting. I'll give it a go. And it is cool. If you're not familiar with it, it kind of alternates between two types of stage. So it's a Tate perspective game, but it's got 3D stages where you're sort of flying into the screen. It's sort of vaguely Afterburner style.
Sure. So
it starts with a level where you're flying a plane like vertically down towards this battleship that you have to drop bombs on at the end of the stage, and that's an incredibly striking opening to the game. But then the other levels are like they're a bit like Tiger Heli, I guess. If Tiger Heli was absolutely impossible. I mean, Tiger Heli is quite difficult anyway, but this is just another level. It's enjoyable and it's satisfying when you get a little bit further, but my God, it's hard.
Yeah, well, you know, we didn't love it, we wouldn't do it, right? It's like I live at home. My house is a split level, so I have my area downstairs, and then my parents live in the area upstairs. And I've been really obsessed with Demon's Tilt, that pinball game that's kind of looking to be a spiritual successor to Devil's Crash and Alien Crash. And my dad will always like joke, like I'll be working because I largely work from home these days. And my dad will come down to do the laundry, and he'll be like, "I bet you were playing pinball this morning," because like I will just be screaming at the screen when the ball drains. But it's either Demon's Tilt or any number of shoot 'em ups that I've been playing lately. Have you had a chance to play that one that like everyone's raging about on Steam, Drainus?
Drainus, yes.
Drainus. I don't know how to actually pronounce it.
Oh, yeah, Dr.
Anus.
It's a stupid name either way, but it's a fantastic game. Fantastic, absolutely brilliant. One of the best shoot 'em ups I've played for a very long time. So
that's Ladybug, right?
Yes. So that they did, what was it? Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth?
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't played that yet, then give it a go, and fingers crossed we'll get some sort of physical console version of that because it definitely deserves it. Yeah, really good game, beautifully presented, wonderfully slick and smooth, really nice customization system where you sort of collect energy tanks and then you can use that to bulk stuff onto your ship between levels. And it's got really nice mix of stages as well, so you got sort of open plan ones where you're sort of flying and shooting off waves of enemies, and then you got R-type style stages where you're flying through caverns and stuff as well. It's got an interesting power-up system where your power-ups are also your armor. So, like, the more power-ups you've got, the more hits you can take. But if you get hit, you lose that power-up until you pick it up again. So, yeah, there's some really interesting mechanics going in that one. Some incredibly memorable encounters, and it's just beautifully presented. So, yeah.
We'll have to do an upcoming episode where we focus on indie shmups. Because, like, I got Andro Dunalis 2, and, like, that's insane. From your recommendation, I picked up Rigid Force Redux, and that's absolutely killer.
Yeah, Rigid Force is fantastic. It's R-type by anything other than the R-type name.
Yeah, but it still has its own identity. Like, some of the mechanics are radically different. It's great. Yeah, I've just been enjoying all kinds of weird indie shmups lately.
Yeah, really interesting one I tried recently is called Spacewing War. This was another East Asia Soft one.
This not that one looks like a Game Boy game, is it?
Yes, that's right. It uses sort of the Game Boy Color palettes, and it's presented in the same aspect ratio as a Game Boy game and so on. That's really interesting because it's a shoot 'em up, but it also feels like it feels a bit like a platformer in a weird sort of way. So that sort of the level design, it's kind of like a Super Mario game in terms of its level design, but you're flying a spaceship through it. So you've got like sort of blocks to destroy, and you've got different paths you can take, and you've got things to avoid, and traps and obstacles and that sort of thing. There's no power-ups in it. It's just 4 different weapons you can switch between according to the situation. So you've got like a basic shot that fires quite quickly and long range, but you can't fire it very rapidly. Then you've got a spread shot, which is quite short range. You've got a boomerang that flies out a little way but in front of you and then goes behind you. And then you've got a bomb, which explodes sort of a short distance in front of you and does heavy damage, including to you if you're not careful. So yeah, the game is sort of all about knowing when to use which of those weapons when, and how it will help you not only defeat the enemies but also traverse these environments. And it's just a really nicely put together game. And then when you beat the basic campaign of that, there's then all these other modes to unlock as well. So you then play through the whole game again as sort of one of the what was one of the boss characters. And they handle completely differently. So instead of becoming a continuous scroller, it becomes a game where you control the pace of the scrolling, sort of in the hunt style.
Oh, very cool.
And then there's other stuff beyond that I haven't unlocked yet. But yeah, it's a really, really interesting game. It quite unlike any other shoot 'em up I've played. It's not a shoot 'em up you go to if you want fast and frantic action, because it is designed to not only look like a Game Boy game, it feels like a Game Boy game as well. So it's got the sort of limitations in terms of the number of things that are happening on screen at one time. So it gives it a very distinctive feel as well. That's not sort of fast-paced arcade-style stuff, but it's very recognisably a Game Boy game that just happens to have been made for modern stuff.
That sounds great, yeah. East Asia Soft's been doing a lot of these like small digital games. I would love it if they like amassed like 4 of them and did like East Asia Soft Minis Volume 1 and then like put it on a card or something. That would be like the best.
They're releasing some of these games physically, because I know that Z-Wing, which was the sort of Truxton style shoot 'em up, they did a while back. They're doing a physical version of that, I think.
Yeah, that's even getting a US retail release.
Oh, is it?
That's cool. A full on, yeah. Like I have that on pre-order, like the special edition with the holofoil cover and everything. Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, that's a really excellent game. That was a really pleasant surprise when the review code for that came in. I just gave it a go and was like, wow, it's Truxton.
Yeah, I remember you enthusing about it. So then when I saw it on Play Asia the one day, I sent you a link and I was like, is this the Truxton game you were talking about? And then you were like, yes, and then I immediately purchased it.
Yeah,
because I love Truxton.
Yeah, so East Asia are sort of developing some nice relationships with other people as well. So for the people who like sort of adult content, they've got a good partnership with Funbox Media here in the UK. So all of the or some of the Pretty Girls games that they've been doing for a while. So like Pretty Girls Mahjong Solitaire, Pretty Girls Panic, Pretty Girls Klondike Solitaire, that sort of thing. They're all very casual games with sort of pictures of pretty girls that are drawn from various visual novels and so on. But between them and Funbox, they found some sort of legal loophole, which is if you release something as a PEGI title, you can have like complete nudity in it, whereas you can't do that if it's an ESRB one. So they've managed to do physical releases of a bunch of games that were sort of mildly lewd in their downloadable version, but they have full nudity in them if you buy the physical version
for the Switch.
Which is for the Switch.
Yeah, so I've seen those advertised on Play Asia, but I didn't really know what the story was behind them. So that's interesting. I mean,
yeah,
I don't have any interest in paying to play a solitaire or a mahjong game just to see titties, but it's cool that such a thing exists.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you do want casual games, those Pretty Girl games are worthwhile as casual games. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them to everyone. Like I say, so if you've got better means of playing solitaire or Mahjong solitaire or whatever, then fine, whatever. But yeah, they are there and available, and they're doing physical versions of them, which is really cool. So
yeah, I mean, Play Asia and their partnerships with East Asia Soft and like the English language games and stuff that happen for the various regions, Europe included. Like, you can ask, I get paid twice a month. I get paid on the 15th and the 30th of every month. At least one paycheck a month, I do a, quote, Play Asia raid, end quote. And I just, like, get all my buddies together. I'm like, what is everything you want from Play Asia? And we just go together on, like, a big crate. And then, like, we just get a massive box of, like, a ton of weird. I do something similar quite often, because one other thing that's good about Play Asia is they specifically mark Japanese releases that have got English support in them as well. Yes.
So there's quite a lot of so there's quite a lot of Japanese Switch games that have the full English translation in them, which might not necessarily be obvious from just looking at the packaging. But Play Asia will go, yeah, if you want to play this in English, you can. So like stuff like Metallic Child, which I want to talk about in a bit. And there's some visual novels as well. I think Loopers is one that's come out recently. That is a Japanese release, but it's got full English text in it. The Ace Attorney trilogy was like that as well.
Yes.
And yeah, all sorts of others. So yeah, it's worth digging in there and looking not just at their Asia English ones, but also at some of the Japanese ones as well, because you might be surprised what stuff that you can play and access. If
you're over eager like me too, and you don't feel like waiting, like a lot of stuff that even is going to get a US physical release, you can get a Japanese English language release. Like I bought Pocky and Rocky Reshrined that way.
Yes, I did too.
I bought Dietlit and Wonder Labyrinth that way. And obviously, and then there's some weird ones that like may not. Like I got. I got that. What was that game? Something Witch 3 Refine. I can't remember.
Oh, Witchspring 3.
Yeah, Witchspring 3. I got that. I got the Japanese version, and then like Strictly Limited or someone ended up publishing it through Einen for the West. But I bought the Japanese version because it was like $10 cheaper than the Einen published version, and I could get it with free shipping or whatever from Play Asia. So like I have that. I just pre-ordered a Marchen Forest. Have you heard of this one?
I think I've heard the name. I'm not familiar with it though, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about it, but it looks like a weird, cute JRPG with like a little bit of a dark fairy tale bent to it. It's a name I've heard bandied about, but I wasn't super familiar with it. But I was doing a Play Asia raid on Thursday, and it just popped up, like people who bought this also bought this. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. So like, I watched YouTube videos, and it looks like kind of a cutesy dungeon crawler. Very interesting, where it's like you only have one. It's one of those games where you only have one character in battle, which which leads to really interesting combat mechanics. So it's got like dungeon crawling elements. It's got some light atelier crafting elements and stuff. So I'm quite excited for it. But that's a Japanese English language release, and I doubt that'll make its way over here.
That's on Steam as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Steam review here. After episode 1, feels like Animal Crossing. After episode 2, feels like Dark Souls. After episode 3, this is harder than Dark Souls.
Lovely. Cute. I can't wait, but it's adorable. It's like a cute little chibi witch. I'm like, I cannot wait.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, been fun to explore that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we've been talking for an hour. Do you want to take a quick break? Because I think my throat is begging for a bit of a drink.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so we'll take a quick break there, and we'll come back and we'll talk about some more stuff that we have on our minds at the moment. So we'll see you in a moment. Welcome back. We're not going to go for too much longer because we don't want to keep you for too long, but I think we both just needed a bit of a comfort break there. So we'll carry on with what we were talking about there, which is some of the stuff we've been playing and enjoying and just sort of finding out stuff about recently. I mentioned Metallic Child before the break. I want to talk a little bit more about that because I've sort of rediscovered that recently, and I know you're a fan of it as well, aren't you?
It's a really good game, and I can't believe more people don't talk about it. Oh, what if we took the best sensibilities of Mega Man and crossed them with an overhead action roguelike? Like, why aren't people losing their shit over this game?
Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar, Metallic Child is a game that was made by what they called Studio HG, I think, isn't it? They're a Korean developer who previously made Smashing the Battle, which is
also
need to try.
fun.
Which
Very
I
fun.
still need to try for myself. I got a lovely limited edition of that recently, and it's still in the shrink wrap. But I'll have to give that a go at some point. But yeah, it's a action roguelite. They call it roguelite core action, whatever that means. But it's basically sort of top-down isometric perspective where you control this incredibly cute female android running around a space station, beating the crap out of robots, throwing them at walls, chucking them into flames, stomping on them, all sorts of things. And it's just a beautifully designed game. It's fantastic. It's one of those games that feels really nice to play. Just everything about the overall feel of the game and the way the character moves and the way all the actions work, it just feels great.
Yeah, it's unreal. The physicality, you know, that's something we talk about a lot, right? Is just the game feel, the use of sound and animation to create a sense of palpable physical touch in the game, and the fact that like a weighty throw mechanic is like core to the combat.
Yes, definitely.
It's second to none. I mean, it's so smashy and like as you want a game about busting robots to be, right? It just feels smashy and hollow, robots crashing into each other, and I love it. I love it. It's cute. Yeah. There's a ton to unlock. I mentioned Mega Man earlier, so it's like it has the Mega Man style stage select. So there's like I don't know, is it like 8 robots or something? There's there's a number of rogue androids you're trying to take down. They each have a different theme and appearance. So there's like a fire one and a wind one and like a gravity-focused one. And when you take them down, you also unlock the ability to unlock a themed outfit based on their appearance, which also then alters your abilities. So there's just all kinds of replay value, and just like any roguelike, which we've often talked about how much we love here. A ton of emphasis on trying the different weapons, and the different weapons feel very different and very good in their own way. Nothing feels invalid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the nice thing is that there's relatively few kinds of weapons in that you've got gauntlets, hammers, and sword and shield. I think the 3 main weapon types. But
isn't there like a great sword too, like a big sword?
Possibly. I don't think I found one myself, but there's certainly those are the 3 main ones you can choose to take with you at the start of a stage, and then you can find more as you progress through a stage. But the nice thing is when you find those other versions of the weapons, it's not just the same thing with different stats. It will usually do something different. So every weapon has got a special attack. So like your basic attack with, say, the hammer is like a very heavy hammer strike that sort of just does a lot of damage in front of you. But in the last run I did, for example, I then found a better hammer, which instead of doing a heavy strike in front of you, launched a bunch of rolling grenades out in front of you, which completely changed the way I fought. Because I could then attack from range, and it was fantastic. And
they also, it needs to be said, almost always have extremely unique models too. Yes, like the special weapons have special models. They look great. They changed your appearance. They're cool. Like I got
and they've also had a Smash Brothers style announcement shout out the name of every single one of them as well when you pick them up. It's like it's Burning Hammer.
Yeah, just, it's like we always say on here. It's you can feel when a game was made by the team and the team loved the game they were making. It's like when a team's making a game and they're like, we just need to get this done and be done with it. You can feel that. When a team's making a game and in their head they're thinking, oh, but wouldn't it be cool if we added this? And wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And let's add a flourish here. Like you can feel that, and it makes the game impossible to put down. Yeah, because that's infectious. That enthusiasm and that joy is infectious, and it comes right through the controller.
Yeah. One of the really nice things about Metallic Child as well is sort of the way they framed it as well. So they framed it as like you bought this game, and by buying this game, you've accidentally connected to a space station with this android on it, and you are communicating with this character in real time through your television. So it does an awful lot of fourth wall breaking, and it does stuff like it. Yeah, but it does stuff like it puts today's date, but in the year 2086 in the corner of the screen, and like the current time, and it's the right time, and that sort of thing. And just little touches like that are just fantastic. They've added a lot of stuff to it since I first played it, because I first played it last September, pretty much when it first came out. And they've added a lot of extra stuff to it since then. So there's a lot of sort of NPC-centric side quests now. So now when you wander into a room, there might be an NPC hanging around there. And if you talk to them, they will give you something specific to do. One of them is a really obnoxious live streamer. So who is all about...
She's great.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, give me all the donations and stuff. I'm going to put this cute android girl on camera so everyone gives me lots of donations and tips. And what you then have to do is you have to go around and fight as stylishly as possible with this camera watching you at all times and keeping the eye on the number of viewers and that sort of thing. And yeah, it just all of these things, they just shake up the gameplay, so it's never repetitive. There's always something new to be discovering and fiddling around with, and new mixes of things to be enjoying. It's just a fantastically put together game that very few people have talked about.
Yeah, you're literally the only person I've ever talked about this game, except for like virally the other people that I showed it to. You know.
Yeah.
But everything about it, the character design is super endearing. It's cute. The dialogue is funny.
Yeah,
it's just it's a really good time. It's a shining example of the genre that just about anyone can pick up and enjoy. It doesn't feel so balls hard that it's inaccessible like other action roguelites.
Well, I mean, it's got a story mode where you can make the main character invincible. So if you just want to enjoy the story, you can just play it as a game where you're completely invincible android, just kicking the shit out of everything, and you can enjoy it that way if you want to.
Yeah, it's cool.
Which is just incredibly considerate. Incredibly considerate design in the whole thing. But then there's all this extra stuff to unlock as well. When you finish the main story, there's a whole shitload of other stuff to do as well. There's all these files to unlock. There's fan art to unlock. There's endless dungeons. There's new bosses. There's all sorts of stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a good example of a game I would use to get someone into the genre. So it's like, obviously, like we talk about action roguelites a lot. It's a favorite genre of ours, definitely of mine at least. And be they overhead or side scroller, like however they're made. But obviously, they're not all are created the same way, and they're all very different in terms of feel and accessibility. So it's like you can talk about like luminaries in the genre. You can talk about things like Hades, or you can talk about like a really hardcore one that I really love that isn't talked about often is Black Future 88. It's a side-scrolling one. Like you could talk about like all the crazy good ones that are specifically for enthusiasts of the genre, but ones like Metallic Child are like, I want you to try this kind of game that's different than games you've tried before. Now, the difference is, if you die, you're dead, and you've got to start all over again. But, like, that teaches you to get better, and it's different every time. It's like Metallic Child is a game that I would hand the controller to someone who's never played an action roguelike before.
Yeah.
And to teach them about the genre. In the same way that Rogue Legacy. Like, Rogue Legacy is the side-scroller version of that. It's accessible, it's got a cuteness and a friendliness to it that doesn't make you feel like garbage when you fail. It's really cool.
I think the nice thing about both of those games is that they have enough in common with other genres to make people feel familiar with them. So like Rogue Legacy has obviously got the platform element in there, which people will be immediately familiar with. And Metallic Child has got the kind of beat 'em up element in there. So it's got the mash the attack button, it's got the press this button for special attacks and so on. So there's maybe a couple more buttons than you might be used to, but it's still at its heart, there is a beat 'em up in there, which a lot of people will be able to get on board with straight away.
Yep. And that just comes from refining what they learned making Smashing the Battle, which is more of a pure overhead isometric beat 'em up.
Yeah.
That's
definitely.
I'm excited for you to play that eventually, because I really enjoy that game too.
I've been meaning to for a while. Like I say, I've got a limited edition on my shelf, another East Asia shelf jam as it happens, but I just haven't got around to it yet. But revisiting Metallic Child recently just makes me think, I should probably give that a go.
Yeah, no, it's totally worth everybody's time. It's a fantastic game, and just my best wishes to the developers. I hope I hope Metallic Child continues to make them enough bank so that they can make another game for us, because like aesthetically, that kind of like cartoon robot aesthetic is like my jam to infinity. So like I can't wait to see more. I'd love for them to do something. Obviously, like beat 'em up style has been their thing, but I'd love to see their take on like maybe like a visceral shooting kind of game. Like I'm thinking, you know, because Metallic Child often makes me nostalgically think about Assault Android Cactus.
Yes, exactly the same for me.
Yeah, so I'd really love to see them do that because I don't know, I don't. The direction Witchbeam went in after Assault Android Cactus was not pleasing to me. So I don't know if I'm ever going to get something that feels like Cactus again. So maybe what would you say, HG or whatever their name is, we'll make something with some shooty elements because I want to smash robots, but I want to smash robots with pulsing lasers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I'm interested to know sort of how well that's done out east because. Like when Metallic Child launched, they had a trailer done by Studio Trigger, so
yes.
they must have some decent following to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that.
Yeah,
at least in this community.
Yeah.
So, but that's a great game worth talking about exhaustively. I haven't gotten nearly as far in it as I'd like to. But that's the joy of a roguelite, right? Like all progress is valid if you just can unlock little bits and little stat boosts and make that next run just a little bit more successful. So, you know, I've only beaten one of the bosses, but that'll change one day. I just have to keep at it and keep getting better.
Yeah, and again, every time you fail, it makes a point of giving you something anyway. So like every time you fail, it gives you like one of those records with a bit of background story on it or a bit of fan art or something. So like even if you mess up, you get something, which is really nice.
And of course the currency that lets you unlock stat upgrades.
Yeah.
And so just accessible, well made, feels good, looks good, worth playing.
Yep. And another one that you can get from PlayAsia because the Japanese version has full English support.
Yeah. Yep,
so
absolutely.
pick that up if you want it. All right. Anything else you would like to talk about today?
No, I mean, that's pretty much the breadth of what I've been playing. We covered ZHP, we covered Disgaea. Those are kind of the games I'm casually playing right now outside of Final Fantasy XIV, which I just live in now, apparently. So yeah, we'll see what happens next time. I've got some really interesting stuff on the way in the mail currently. This is probably going to broker a larger conversation in the future, but something I've loved in the past, say, 2 years is with China changing their restrictions surrounding console gaming, what we've seen is a tremendous influx of Chinese console games that used to be for legacy series that used to be on the PC, restricted to PC in China. So I'm thinking of the Sword and Fairy series. I'm thinking of the, I'm going to butcher this, but Xuan Yuan Sword series.
Yes.
So last year we got Sword and Fairy 6. The Sword and Fairy action RPG, Together Forever, is also coming out this autumn. And then I have a copy of Xuan Yuan Sword 7 coming in the mail this week. So I'm really excited to continue to explore this kind of different offshoot of development, because really we have not in the West had access to really know what a Chinese RPG felt like. So
no, not at all. Not at all. And from the stuff I've read about Sword and Fairy in particular, it's supposed to be a really interesting, really enjoyable series. So
yeah, and the footage of Xuan Yuan Sword 7, which I have coming this week, just awesome, crazy and crazy premium graphics, good physical combat, just. And lots of praise. Usually the first thing I do when I come across a game where I see the title, I see the cover, and I say, this looks like something I'd probably like, I usually hit up YouTube for a commentary-free gameplay footage video. And like immediately I was like, $35, add to cart. Like, this looks amazing. Like, because I'm a Chinese history nerd as much as I'm a Japanese history nerd. I have my bachelor's degree is in Southeast Asian history. So like I specialized in mid-century and medieval Chinese and Japanese history in college. So like when I see like the era, this era like represented in fiction, in games specifically, like I love it. I want to explore it. I love medieval imperial China, not philosophically, but just like the aesthetics of it and the legends of it. I continue to really enjoy exploring that. That Journey West game that we keep seeing footage of, Black Legend, the Wukong story, where like it looks kind of the story of Son Goku, but represented in more of like a dark, gritty, like Dark Souls-y kind of way. Like the footage of that continues to blow my mind. So just as someone who considers themselves a student of cultural history, every time we can crack into a region that we've not experienced games from before, it's just really an exciting time for me. So hopefully I'll have a bit more to say about that next time, because I'm going to dive into Xuanyuan Sword 7 like the day it shows up, because I'm super psyched for it.
Cool. Well, looking forward to hearing about that then, because it sounds like you're pretty hyped for it. And I like I say, I've read impressions from people who have played the Chinese versions of that and Sword and Fairy and so on, and their responses seem to be pretty universally positive. So
yeah, well, I have Sword and Fairy 6, but I have not cracked into it yet because it's a turn-based RPG, and I'm very weird about starting a new turn-based RPG.
Oh, I'm exactly the same. You don't have to justify yourself at all.
But like when it's an action RPG and I can just fire it up for like an hour and like fiddle with it and get a feel for the game, like I'm much less attached to the idea of doing like just like an experimental demo playthrough just to see what the game is like and coming back to it later. But if I start a turn-based RPG and I get into it, that's it then. Like it's like I'm life siphoned onto that game for a while. So I have specifically been careful not to start any heavy story-driven RPGs until I'm done with all the current story content in Final Fantasy XIV. So I mean, I'm halfway there. I have every expansion in FF14, right, you get 6 new locations, and I've got 3 of the new locations unlocked in Endwalker. So I'm about halfway there, but I'm sure it'll be another 25 to 30 hours before I've played through the rest of the story and all the post-game content. By the time I do that new patch will be out with the friggin' Harvest Moon expansion. Have you seen this shit?
I have, yes. It looks very dangerous.
So I was like, God, this game... It's like, it might be the best video game ever made. I don't know. Yeah. I just love it constantly. Like, I'm thinking of painting a portrait of Y'shtola. And not one of my, like, pixel art. Like, I'm thinking of, like, dusting off my old, like, portraiture skills.
Wow.
Which I haven't done in, like, 15 years.
Wow. That's true love right there. True love.
Well, Mama Y'shtola loves me. She just has a hard time showing it. There's an event in Endwalker where it's like classic, like, go back to your room and rest. And they did something that I don't think they've ever done in earlier parts of the game, where it's like, there's a knock at the door. Who is it? And you actually get to pick who it is.
Oh,
so
nice.
So they come say goodnight to you, and like naturally I pick Y'shtola, and it's like super awkward, and it just consisted of her like lecturing me to make sure to put on a blanket because it may be chilly out tonight. It's like, this didn't go where I wanted it to go. It went somewhere better. But she's the best. She's absolutely the best.
Oh, awesome. I will make an effort to catch up with you as soon as possible.
Oh yeah, you have to experience the whole story arc in Garlemald. Mm-hmm. It's unreal how bleak it gets. Like, like the game's never gone there. Like, I thought Shadowbringers was bleak, but like, you're not ready for the entire Garlemald chapter of Endwalker.
All right, well, I might make some time this evening to make some progress on Shadowbringers then.
And for the love of God, please, Square, make a way for us to play together and like mash servers up.
Yes.
Because like, he's on the Euro server, I'm on the US server. All we want to do is go on adventures together.
Yeah, it's supposedly on their list of things to do, but quite low priority at the minute. But so who knows what that means? But fingers crossed it will happen eventually.
Yeah. The current world visiting mechanic works very well. My buddies and I take advantage of it constantly.
Yeah, I know. My wife uses it a lot because she raids, and like all of her raid group are on different servers. So, but the world visit thing means that they can get together really easily. So.
Yeah, it's delightful.
Yeah, it's perfect for that. Anyway, let's hold that there. So I can go and play Final Fantasy, and Chris can go and wait for Xuanyuan Sword or whatever it's called.
And pizza is what I'm going to do.
I need pizza. That's the important thing. All right. Before we go, would you like to remind people where they can find you online?
Yes, absolutely. You can always find my artwork available for sale at ccaskieart.com. That's C-C-A-S-K-I-E art. I've also got a Instagram page for my art, which is at @CCaskieArt, and a separate Instagram page for my toy and video game collection photography, which is at Chris Buys Plastic. So please pop on, give me a follow, and I'd love to hear from you guys. We love what we love, and we put a lot of time into what we love. So we love when other people who love what they love what we love. So,
well said. Well said. I'm not gonna try and repeat that. I'm quite impressed. I will say that. So you can find my day job work over at Rice Digital, which is ricedigital.co.uk. So I'm in charge over there, and we've also got a great team of writers working with us as well. So we've got sort of several genre specialists. So we've got a dude who knows a lot about the Japanese music scene. We've got a dude who knows a lot about Dragon Ball and One Piece. We've got an Otome specialist, and you've got me who likes porn.
And shmups.
And shmups. Yeah, give me that at least. But yeah, we got a great team of writers over there. We put out some cool stuff for you every week. We're doing some new gameplay videos most days on the Rice Digital YouTube channel now. So if you want to see how some of the games that we've talked about either this week or in the recent past play, we're doing some decent length gameplay videos over there now. My retro gaming series are on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Pete Davison. You'll find Atari A to Z, Atari ST A to Z, Amiga A to Z, Commodore 64 A to Z, Retro Select, and Evercade A to Z there, running on a sort of roughly monthly cycle with a couple of videos a week at the moment on there. If you're listening to this podcast on SoundCloud, do pay the YouTube version a visit because there's a video version of the podcast there as well. And if you're watching on YouTube and you'd like an audio version of the podcast, you can head on over to SoundCloud and look up MoeGamer to get the audio version as well, which is a bit easier to listen to on sort of things like Bluetooth devices and cars and so on. Anyway, enough admin. Just remains for us to say, as always, thank you very much for watching and or listening, and we'll see you again next time, hopefully a little bit sooner.